Hey everybody, it's Ted and welcome to another interview in my interview series. Today I've got Zack from Weidman Air Services with me. Zack is another one of my clients who's had some really interesting things happen in the last little bit. Basically, what's happened for Zack is in the last couple of months since we started working together, he's doubled the size of his company. He went from like 3 people there. There's like 6 people working there now. And it only took him like, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months to get that part. And basically can afford all that, got the pricing in place, got the profitability in place to afford to double and that cool stuff. So say hi, Zack.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, so why don't we just talk for a second, Zack, and just tell everybody a little bit about you, where you come from and your background and stuff.
I'm from the Tampa, Florida area, and I got my company started pretty early. I was around 21 when I started the company. I'm 24 now. I pretty much was pretty hard-headed whenever I started everything. I wasn't very patient. I just hopped in the truck with $50 to my name and a contractor's license and went out and decided I was going to start a business. That was pretty rough for a while. I got pretty good at learning.
What was rough about it? What was rough about it?
That I didn't have, I never did side work before it. I didn't have a steady clientele. I had literally no clientele. So I got really good at refrigeration because I started working on a lot of kegerators and stuff in exchange for beer. So I could build up bar tabs, and when I didn't have work, I'd go hang out at the bar for a little while. So actually, yeah, that worked out pretty well for me because I got really, really good at refrigeration, which I didn't do a whole lot of before I started my own company. But steadily, I started to get customers the old school way. I mean, I went out and I had door flyers that I went around and hung on people's doors. Those didn't work, but my dad did it for years for his gutter business, but I guess it's just a different business. He gets work out of it. I never got a damn thing out of it. And then, it started out just friends and then friends of friends. And I remember being really excited the first time I got a customer that wasn't a friend of a friend or somebody I knew or something. That was a really big accomplishment to me at that time. And now, I mean, I have a customer list full of people I haven't even met because my guys are the ones going out running the call. So,
right.
That's pretty cool.
So you did that for a couple of years that way.
I would say that I went probably my first 6 months was the hardest. I mean, that was more so like the friends and family were calling me to do work stuff. Fortunately, I'd set myself up pretty well financially, even though I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of money going out either. And I made enough money to make ends meet. So whatever money I did have to make, if I wasn't doing air conditioning, I had a really good relationship with my last boss. So even if I didn't have work, I would go work for him as a subcontractor and keep myself busy. So I did that for probably about the first 6 months or so. And then it got to the point where I started getting somewhat busy, two calls a day, something like that, enough to keep money coming in without having to subcontract. Okay. Then I did get a pretty good deal going with a bigger commercial new construction company. So that was a pretty interesting time in my career because I'd always done commercial service, and I got into doing the new construction on commercial stuff as a subcontractor. And I had a lot of fun doing that, and I was making really good money doing it, actually. But I just wasn't able to scale a business, and I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So, that's not why I started a business, to go work for someone else. So, I started working more on building up the service side of my business. I started with a lot of commercial stuff, and residential just kind of came in as it did, and I took it. But, with your help, I've been a little more convinced to go towards the residential market and get what we can out of it, which is seeming to be a lot.
Yeah, let's back up before we met, because obviously you had like a 2-year period or so, more than 2-year period where you were doing different things. And so you did the commercial thing, you did the friends and family word of mouth method.
Yeah.
And then at some point you started saying, hey, I got to grow this thing. I can't just limp this way and grow slowly. I got to figure something out. So how did that get in your head, and what were you doing about that to try to grow at some point?
Well, it's kind of been in my head because I have this almost like it's almost like a weird anxiety that I get if I'm doing the same thing and I look back, like I'm like, okay, last year I was here. If I'm not doing better like than I was a year ago, I get this feeling inside myself, like this really, like it's stomach turning feeling, like I'm not moving forward, I'm not getting better,
Right.
I'm not progressing. So I'm always looking for ways to move forward. So, if like I'm every single day, if there's something I can do to help speed up the process to get myself ahead, then I'm all about it.
So what were you trying to do? What did you try?
My first thing I tried was a program called SBE. It was an okay program. I learned about a lot about getting my numbers right there, but not a lot about much else. So, the biggest problem was, even though I knew my numbers, I was never really educated on how to sell for those numbers other than, well, man, just do it,
Okay.
And that's not really very encouraging, especially when you're the small guy on the block, you're a one-man company, whatever the case is. And, whenever I was in that program, it was like they had an exact way that they did things. It was this step, then this step, then this step, then this step, which, I mean, so your program in a sense has that, but you're able to, you're an owner, you're an ex-owner of an air conditioning company, whereas the person I was talking to in that program was more so like a dispatcher for the company that they turned into a business coach.
Okay.
So you have the experience to say, oh yeah, man, oh, I've ran into that before. Whereas you're like, you ask them and you're like, hey, so this, and this happened. And then they like sit there and flip through their little script and they're like, well, it says you need to do this. You're like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Because obviously for any kind of business coaching, there's only so many ways to get profitable. I mean, you have to charge more than it costs and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
arithmetic is arithmetic. And once we figure out that someone's not charging enough, it's really simple as a coach to say, well, just charge more, right? That's easy to say. The harder thing from where I sit is, now that I got you to do that, I actually have to get you to really do that and really believe it and really get like your mindset shift into that. This is not just some BS that some guy told me that a number that I should use. It's like,
Yep.
And in fact, that's why we do what we do is, you remember this. I didn't give you any numbers. I taught you how to go figure out the numbers so that when you get the numbers, you totally believe that they're real because you're the one who figured them out. Don't look at me. I mean,
Yeah.
I do that on purpose because, I could give somebody the numbers in like 30 seconds. I know, like, dude, $75 an hour time and material is not going to be profitable. I already know that.
Yeah.
I already know that's not going to work. I can tell someone that the first time I meet them. But if I just do that, they're not going to take action with as much certainty and intensity as if we work through the mindset shifts to go from technician that's running that's trying to run a side business or be self-employed into business owner. Like, what would an MBA be doing?
Yeah.
Right?
I think the biggest thing for me, as far as going back to the pricing and the mindset shift and how they tie together, is whenever they were giving me the pricing, it felt to me like, it felt really deep down like, man, I like charging these prices, but I felt that the customer could get a better deal going somewhere else. And that's not a good feeling to have. It's like, it makes you feel selfish. It makes you feel like you're gouging people or however you want to put it. But whenever we start talking about the mindset shifts and the ways that the money can be applied to do the proper things and to build your business up to be a business that, I can tell you right now that there's nobody in our market that charges the same or less money than we do that does what we do for our customers. So there's no way that my customers are going to go get a better deal. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, they get a lower price if that's what they want.
Right.
The
obvious thing is charge more money, but dang it, make it worth it.
Yeah. I mean, value, you just have to build the value to exceed the cost, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's everybody has their own idea on what's valuable, and customer is not going to want that cost, but I don't want those customers. So
Well, yeah, not everybody's a fit for every kind of business. I mean, I always use like restaurants as a kind of a parallel to what we do. There's a place in the world for a Wendy's drive-through. There just is, But if you're running a steakhouse, you just stop worrying about what they're doing. Like, look, I run a steakhouse. It costs $50 to eat here. I don't care what Wendy's is doing, right?
yeah.
They're just people who are really interested in a drive-through burger. They're just not my customer today. They might be next week when they want a steak, but right now they're just not my customer, and I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up over it, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you don't sell somebody a $50 steak on a 4-for-4 budget. Just,
Right.
it's you're not trying to. So
right, exactly. So how did you get to where you made the call to talk with me?
Just a lot of watching your videos over it's probably, I don't know how long ago I started watching your videos in Pro Talk. It's been probably a couple of years. I would just see them pop up here and there. The biggest thing that really did it for me in one video that stuck with me for a long time was the short video that you did on, instead of wanting your phone to ring, you want to have a full schedule. So that's something that stuck with me for a long time. And although I may have taken it a little bit out of context at the time, it still helped me with a mindset shift that I didn't even know was happening. And instead of every day sitting there waiting for my phone to ring, I was finding ways to fill my schedule with the phone calls I did have and make them profitable. So
right. I mean, yeah, it's like right. So there's all kinds of little shifts in there. So that's cool. So we got on the phone, and what happened during the call? Like, how does that call go? So I mean, I can tell people how it goes, but they want to hear it from someone who's been on the call. What is that like?
The call was pretty eye-opening. I can see how it could make some people probably cry. But,
okay. Why would you say that?
But just because you're gonna make them realize the problems that they want to run away from.
But we get to the truth, right? I mean,
if
the truth, you're right. If the truth sucks, it can make you, for the first time in a long time, look at what Look, if you ask every business owner how's business, they all go, "Oh, it's going great."
Yeah. No, absolutely.
2/3 of businesses in the world, not just in our industry, but in any 2/3 of businesses have some kind of challenge or struggle going on every single day, and they're not going to admit it to their friends and family. So on that call, my goal is, dang it, let's get to the truth of what's really going on here.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is you kind of bottle up those things, because whenever you're talking to anybody else about it, it just sounds like you're crying or you're whining or whatever.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't care how your business is doing, whatever.
Right.
Well,
believe me, it's nothing I've never heard before. Right. So I've heard it all. So
So I mean, whenever you get on the phone with somebody who actually wants to dig into your business and the problems you're having, it's really enlightening, and you can feel like all you want that you're making money. I mean, hell, I had $300,000 or whatever it was come through my business as a one-man show with a little bit of help here and there, last year. But that doesn't mean I made any money, and that's kind of the point that we have to get to. Yeah, I ran my ass off, worked 70, 80 hours every single week, and I had a lot of money come through my bank account, but it really doesn't mean anything. So I think it was really just getting down to it and being like, well, do you want to fix this or not? And like, of course, yeah, I want to fix this,
Right.
And, you get offered a helping hand, and it was
right. I mean, the point is this: if I have to like push somebody to try to fix their own business, then they're not someone I can help. If I have to push them to do it, if I've got someone there if I've got someone who knows that the business they have can be so much more, and they're just missing either the information, which is fairly rare. Almost everybody knows what they need to do, but the real big trouble is I have to figure out how to get them to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I always look at it like a weight loss program. Look, if we have to lose 50 pounds, there's a simple recipe. Everybody knows what it is. You don't need a diet book. Just stop eating Twinkies and go work out. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But the average American's like 20 to 50 pounds overweight. Why is that? Because they're not doing it. They're sleeping in. They're eating an extra donut. They're not skipping any meals, man. They're not like, they haven't worked out in 4 months because they have a gym membership. They just haven't been there, right? So then the day you hire a personal trainer who shows up and says, dude, you're not going to let me down because you hired me. You paid me to make sure that you didn't skip workouts, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of the idea. And ultimately that's what we do is, we get people into that space where when you're really actually serious about getting it changed, we'll help you make that transition.
Yeah.
To take the actions it takes.
Absolutely. So, and I think, go ahead.
That's a good question. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it is whenever you got on the phone call, and this is something that we get into in kind of our sales process that you're teaching us, is whenever you're on the phone call, you get away from the idea that, hey man, Ted just called me to sell me some program, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's intention there. And what your intention is to help the contractors that you're talking to. And, right. And you follow through with it is the biggest thing. It's not just like, oh, hey man, pay for this program. And then.
Right. Well, it comes down, that's the first step, by the way, for everybody. The first step of our sales process is intention, and it's the intention. And you can totally have a script and have the wrong intention and read it to people where it feels like you're doing something to them. My intention on those calls is to get to the truth of what's going on there. I really seriously don't have a dog in the fight of whether someone enrolls with me or not during that call. I really don't. Because if they're not a good fit, it's a nightmare from my end to try to help somebody who just doesn't want to take help. So I really don't want anyone like that. I really don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And you've seen, like, when we have our group calls where everybody's in the group, everybody's always like enthusiastic, like, oh, I'm ready to do something. And, and some guy that was struggling a week ago calls back the next week and says, oh my God, I finally did it because you guys were all so enthusiastic. I just changed the thing and now I have this awesome result. Because ultimately for me, it's getting to the truth. And if the truth is you need help, then you do. If the truth is you don't need help and everything's just a little bump in the road, well, that's cool too. We're good, So that leads us to the question, like, after you got in the program, because you enrolled right there that day,
Yeah.
So what was the first thing that you did that we recommended that said that you had a result? Like, oh my God, there was the result right there. What was the first thing you did? What's the first thing that happened for you that worked?
Successful invoice sheets that I took. We're like, well, I have this paperless system that I send people invoices from House Call Pro, and then I have this maintenance agreement that I have the customer sign, and I show it to them, it's something they want, and I have my price book over here, and I have all my customers' information over here, and then I put in notes over here, and then I'm like looking at all of it, and it's just like I have 4 or 5 sheets, and you're like, dude, just put it all in one place. And
so what happened when you did that? I mean, I'm curious now because,
I mean, whenever I did it, it just like the technicians are just happier. We're selling more maintenance agreements. They don't have to go through. It's like so many less things to do. And the customer has the price right there on their sheet. I mean, like I'm not charging you more than I charge your neighbor. Look, I'm going to circle it for you. It's right here,
Right.
And I mean, it's all on one sheet of paper. I mean, there's very few and far in between times that we really have to, think of a price on something because like 95% of it's right there.
Yeah. How long did it take you to put that together?
Well, I had the help of a pretty good graphic designer, I think, but it really only took me like a couple days because what I did is I took everything that, we had talked about because I think on one of our group calls, we had kind of talked about it where everyone was kind of talking about their invoices. And I just took the concepts of all the things that you told me to put on the invoice. And I just drew this really crude, awful, rough draft of what I wanted.
Back of a napkin kind of thing with a pencil.
Yeah, exactly. And I just took this on a piece of paper and I said, hey, I want these the longer sheets of paper. I want a carbon copy. I wrote a rough draft of the tiers and blah, 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 whatever. And then what I did is I went and typed out all those things on Word. and then just sent her like the rough draft and like, okay, this is a Word document for what fits in this section. This is what fits in this section.
Right.
And the graphic designer just did what she does best, which is very affordable, by the way, to get a graphic designer to do this. But she just plugged it all together for me, sent me a couple drafts. We're like, no.
So bottom line is, like, within a week, you had suddenly had changed your pricing structure, the way you're presenting it, the way your guys were doing it, and
yeah, within a week. Yeah, within a week. I mean, maybe 2 weeks at the very most. It wasn't even that, I don't think. But we completely changed basically our whole system of how we did things from the time we stepped in the customer's door to the time that they signed off on the piece of paper. You know.
Right. So what was the end result for that? I mean, here's the thing we get. A lot of people like, I changed my pricing, and then guys get afraid. Oh my God, my prices just went up and my customers are going to hate me or something.
Well, one thing that I can say for myself is it may be a little harder for the one-man shows to do it, because I went through that struggle myself whenever I was in the SVE program, because, you know, I got handed the price sheet. What I noticed though on the repair prices, it's not that hard. I mean, we're not talking about telling people that they need to spend $1,000 for a condenser fan motor or something crazy like that. You know, we're talking about a few $100 or whatever the case is, you know, $400 or $500 or something.
But it's consistent, right?
Yes,
from one tech to the other, right?
Yeah, exactly. People are just like, they don't care. They just want it fixed, you know?
Right.
I mean, like very rarely, how often are you going to run into a customer that you tell somebody like they're like, I'm in Florida, man. It gets to like 90 degrees in these people's houses. And you go over there and you tell them, yeah, well, it's going to be $500 or whatever the case is to fix your air conditioner. How many people that are sweating their balls off in their house are going to be like, I don't know, man, $500. I think I can find it cheaper. You got to be a really, you got to be a penny pincher.
There's another guy at 457.
Yeah.
He can't come for 3 days, but I'll just wait for him and save $46 or something, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't ever run into that stuff.
Right.
And you know, we don't.
Well, we always say there's only two things they want, right? They want to know, number one, can you fix the darn thing? And number two, what actually is the actual price to fix this thing? That's the only thing they want to know.
Yeah,
no. If we make it easy for them to understand that, they'll go yes. They say yes really easily.
I think a big part of selling for those prices too, though, is just make yourself presentable. Get a nice uniform. You know, get a somewhat presentable vehicle and everything, and you're gonna feel better about yourself, and then you're gonna feel a lot better about selling for these prices.
Right. Well, I mean, you didn't do all that like in a week or anything, but yeah.
But I did quick. I mean, like
right.
We did real quick. You know, we're talking. You know,
because you doubled in like 2 months, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. We went from 3 employees. I was doing all the office work myself. So, like, I was doing all the office work, trying to pull permits, trying to register warranties, trying to take phone calls, trying to do all of our, because I have an account with Panda Express Restaurants, so I got to do a lot of stuff to invoice them. You know, and I'm like, it was just overwhelming. And then trying to do work in the field, and I had one other technician, then we had a helper, and so it was us 3, me, the technician, and the helper. And I guess technically we had a 4th person. I don't even count him, you know. So we got rid of him. But then we went over, and once we got rid of him, we hired another guy, and then another guy. And Brandy came somewhere along in there and started doing the office work. And, you know, now
that was a big impact for you. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge impact. Just right. And I remember arguing with you about it. I'm like, well, don't you think I should do this first? Or don't you think I do? You're like, no, dude, just
right.
hire an office person.
You're not any good at the office stuff. Just get somebody else to do it. I mean, let's be honest. You're an air conditioning service tech. You should not be running an accountant, right? So
yeah, no, exactly. And then, I mean, but
let's talk about that for that. What's the impact of that on your life when you say, got all that stuff off?
Well, I think the biggest impact to the growth like that is, dude, we got an on-call schedule now. Like, I'm not on call every single day of every single week, every single hour. You know, I still go out and do my fair share and catch calls whenever I need to. But
right,
we have a crew of guys that, you know, I can go take weekends off now. you know?
Right. Well, that's the impact, right? Suddenly you have
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just like a workaholic, so I don't really take advantage of them as much as I should. You know, I find myself in the office because I want to be, though, not because I have to be.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm that guy too. I'm wired as an entrepreneur. I always have been. I would be a terrible employee for somebody. I just would. I would be terrible. But what's weird is that, even after many years in business, we almost always had an extra truck because it would be like one that the helpers rode in or would drove to pick up parts or whatever, right? When we got really slammed, I mean, I could admit 28, 29 years in business near the end of before I sold my company, even at the end of the career when I didn't have to run calls anymore. If we were really slammed in the busiest season, I'd be like, give me a box of parts. I'll throw them in my personal car. My personal car was a Ford Explorer. It's like I can throw a box of parts in the back and go run 4 or 5 calls today just to get the easy ones off the guys that are out. Like, I'm not going to do like a leak search and crap and with torches and all that. I mean, obviously we have calls. We know what those are. Send the guys out to do those, but let me just run over and change that contactor real quick and get it off the schedule because it just helps. I couldn't give up being a tech, I guess is the point.
Yeah.
Even though I spend most of my identity thinking of myself as a businessman, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the fact that now I can kind of like pick and choose the calls I want to do. Like for me personally, my favorite thing to do is work on walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers. I mean, that's my favorite thing to go out and do. So when those calls come in, more times than not, I don't run them. But if I'm sitting at the office and, you know how it goes. Sometimes you're sitting there and you just get like this tunnel vision looking at a computer all day or whatever the case may be. You're like, whatever, man, fuck it. I'm going to go hop in the truck and go run a call because I want to. And that's the thing is like I don't feel like I have to do these things anymore. I still do them, but at my leisure,
So, well, I mean, the bottom line of the whole thing for you is that in a really short period of time, like a couple of months, you went from effectively a one-man show with a helper or something to a real business, like within like a couple of weeks.
No. And I mean, and I didn't have a lot of money to do it either is the biggest thing. It's not like I don't have a savings account. I don't have it's like, we wake up every morning and we're like, guys, we got to turn these calls into something because, I'm getting very close to digging myself out of that. But
it's only been a couple of months. So
yeah, it's only been a couple of months. I mean, we're talking about, but I mean, hell, we got done with a job that we sold 2 inverters on and we finished that up in 3 days or whatever. So that was a big chunk of change came in. I got a bunch of other checks that came in. So now I'm sitting here like, well, now I got a marketing budget. And now we finally got to that portion of it, which is just absolutely genius whenever you look at the whole way that it's all mapped out. Because I can tell you, like whenever I was in that SVE program, they're like social media. It's stupid. Don't do it. Do a bunch of Google pay-per-clicks. That's all you need to do. Google pay-per-clicks. Get a really good website. Just pay for clicks. And it was stupid. I mean, it was.
Right. I mean, everybody has their thing, and ultimately, you probably need you do need a Google presence. You need to be good.
Oh no, absolutely. And
we're being honest, right? But but there's more to marketing than just using a platform like Google or Instagram or Facebook or direct mail or newspapers or radio. It's not. It's like, okay, so I'm going to do radio advertising. Okay, all right, genius. What's the radio ad going to actually say now?
Yeah,
that's the question. The question is not, should I do radio or not? The question is, if you want to learn to become a marketer, which if you're a business owner, the only job you have is to grow your business. That becomes your job title when it says owner under it.
Mm-hmm.
Every other job, like when you're an owner that's acting like a service technician, right now you're not acting like an owner.
No, I mean, you can't. Your business isn't going to grow itself.
Right. So when you're trying to become a marketer, we really have to key in on how do you say the things you need to say on these ads. And then at that point, the platform doesn't matter as much, but things like Google at $75 a click is way more expensive than other platforms that can get the message out to people in a different way. So
and I still retain a small pay-per-click campaign.
You should,
It does work, but it's not going to be our main source of incoming calls. But But I think the biggest thing is like whenever people hear Facebook advertising, like they're thinking, okay, well, we're just going to boost a bunch of posts and it's going to turn into a bunch of calls. And like whenever you think of it that way, it sounds ridiculous. You're like, this isn't going to work.
Well, I mean, when they click on the ad, where does it go?
Yeah,
Usually nowhere,
exactly.
right? You know.
Exactly. Where does it go? Call now. And it's not like it calls your phone. It shows you the phone number to call. And then like by the time somebody's done all that, they're like, you know what? I mean, I'm going to keep scrolling, you know?
Right.
But no, I mean, there's so much more to the marketing platform and what Facebook can do and what, you know, how you can tie it in with using Facebook to market on places that aren't Facebook. And it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm really mind blown by what we're learning about. And that happens pretty quickly too. I mean, you know, the biggest thing is getting your stuff in place before you start doing the marketing, which, you know, everybody's kind of impatient about. I was impatient about it. I'm like, well, dude, I want to get to the marketing. Come on.
Right.
But
well, right. Well, I'll tell you, just so everybody knows, here's the reason why. The reason why is if you're not profitable, if you're not priced right and you have no sales process and you can't turn the calls you have into good money, then throwing money at marketing, if you're losing money, you're going to lose money faster.
yeah.
You know, so we need to fix we need to make sure all these ducks are in a row before it's like building a building. We're all in the construction trades. It's like, we can't be picking out the cool stuff like the tile for the kitchen and the countertops and the cabinets and the really fun stuff everybody likes to pick out, you know, the faucets and the light fixtures. That's all fun to pick out. You have to get the foundation of the building poured straight and square so the house doesn't turn and fall over sideways, because none of that's going to matter if you don't get that foundational stuff done. And the good news is it doesn't take real long, you know?
No. We're not talking about years or anything. We're talking.
And there's a lot of programs that make that crap really freaking complicated. Like, you know, like here's these really daunting set of numbers and stuff to do. And I'm like, you don't have to go to all that trouble to get it profitable. It's this plus this minus that, divide by this. It's like, there's your number. Now you know the number, right? Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing too is like you don't need.
Right. Everybody wants to get in the marketing. They all say, I just need more customers. I'm doing good. Like, well, let's find out how good you're really doing before we do that. So, you know? Yeah. And if you're doing good, we're fine. Yeah, but
the thing with the numbers too is like, you don't even, it's not like you have to be really great at math or anything. I mean, anything that we do, like, I think that's a big daunting thing when people start talking about the numbers. Like, I mean, I'm pretty decent with math. I'm not great with it, but I mean, like, if you can add and subtract and multiply, I mean, you can learn how to do your numbers. So,
right.
I mean, you give us plenty of tools, you know, spreadsheets and whatever we need to do that just does the most of the math for you. So,
yeah, I mean, I had to build those spreadsheets. Frankly, to be honest, I took algebra 3 times in high school to get out of high school because I was not a good math guy. But when I got into business, I had to figure that out. I had to put that aside and say, you know what? I'm not allowed to just tell myself that I suck at math and I'll never be good and I'm going to ignore it. I had to, at some point, in order to be successful, decide once and for all that I was going to learn how to do at least business math well. Now, do not ask me to calculate the orbit from NASA to go to the moon or something like that. I can't do calculus. I don't do that. So, you know, but we don't have to. I mean, we just have to know. And the other thing that I see that kind of drives me a little bit crazy is I see it all over like internet marketing board, you know, message boards and stuff. People are throwing around accounting terminology, and it's pretty clear sometimes that they don't know what the word means. I say something like margin, markup, revenue, income, profit. Okay, well, what does profit mean to you? Because it's sort of like this Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think it means. So, you know, we got to go in and we spend like a little while, like an hour. Let's define what all these words mean, so that when you're saying it and I'm saying it, we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think a big thing, and I learned this previous to the program, but I mean, I know people who are contractors, have been contractors forever and still don't know the difference between a markup and a margin.
Right.
You know? And that's like a huge thing. Like, dude, whenever you're taking your product and you're adding 40% to it, you're not making 40%.
Right.
That you're not. I mean,
right.
You know, but there's a very.
And where'd you get that number from anyway? How do you know that's the right one to use? Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because everybody says 40% profit. That's pretty good. But I mean, yeah, 40% profit is pretty good if you're actually making 40% after you take everything else out. You know,
Right.
you're
Right.
not, you know.
Well, the other one that we see it really often is we force you to stop kidding yourself about how much you're making, because
Yeah,
for small companies especially, it's really common to say, well, I make all this money because I don't have all these costs. It's like, well, the only reason you don't have those costs is because you made up your mind that you say, well, that one doesn't count for me. It's like, it counts
yeah,
for everybody else. How does it not count for you? So,
yeah. I mean, like if you're working out of your personal truck, I mean, why would you say, oh, you know what, that doesn't count for me. I'm working on a personal truck. Instead, why don't you say, oh yeah, man, I'm spending this money on the business, and I don't have to buy a personal truck, but let's count it. Like, you know, it's
right.
a
Because
vehicle.
I'm going to have to replace this truck sometime.
Yeah.
Right.
Or working out of your house. I mean, just say, like, if you're using one room as your office, how much is that space worth? I mean,
Right.
you paid $300,000 for your house. You paid probably $50,000 for that room.
Right. Or yeah, whatever those things are. It's like,
Yeah.
or like, well, I don't pay sales commission because I just sell everything myself because I'm a small company. It's like, okay, so the first time you hire an employee that sells something that's not you, you just completely wrecked your business model and you have no
Yeah.
profitability anymore because you were scratching by before. Now you went into the negative numbers really quickly.
Yeah.
So, the bottom line is we want you to pretend that you're the company that you want to be starting right now, and not act like the one you are. Act like the one you're going to be next year.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to necessarily turn your whole world upside down, but darn it, at least on paper, start putting down things like sales commission and labor and stuff that you're not
Mm-hmm.
accounting for, or whatever, more office helps. Like, how many, and I don't know that everyone has this, but a lot of people have like their spouse or somebody who's like roped into working for free. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, that's not a real business if you have slave labor.
Yeah. No, Brandy's looking at me. but, but no, I do pay Brandy. We just
Yeah, she should get a paycheck.
yeah, if she gets a paycheck. We had a couple rough weeks there, but we got through them.
So,
Um, but uh, the yeah, I mean, just those things that you're not accounting for, like, and I mean, even if, like, just stop lying to yourself, just like
right.
stop saying, like,
You can just go back to lying for yourself if you want to. You can just go
yeah,
back to it, right?
yeah. I mean, and I think one big thing too is like people start their HVAC business because they're like, oh, I'm going to stop working for the man. I'm going to work when I want to. I'm going to do all these things, and you start to find out that, like, you don't own a business, you own a job.
No, the job owns you.
Yeah, like now it's like, oh man, I made out pretty good on that one install, but now I didn't have any work for the 3 days that I wish I was working. So now the day that I don't want to work, it comes in, so I have to go do it, and it's just, it becomes a mess.
Well, the other thing too is there was I've seen it happen over and over again where a small company, everyone has to start there. I shouldn't say almost everyone has to start there. Sometimes you'll see somebody who buys a company that
Yeah,
starts where they bought a company or something. But almost everybody starts out as a one-man company. The problem is it's very dangerous to be there, and you don't want to stay there for long.
yeah,
Because if something happens to you, if you fall off a ladder or something and hurt yourself or get in a car accident or something, it's like you just lose the whole business in like a week or two because there's no money coming in. There's the
yeah,
business itself as a separate entity that's not you can't do anything without you. So
yeah,
you got to quickly, like, I mean, you're at the point now, the size you're at now. It's like if you got the flu for 3 days and just couldn't come in, your
yeah.
phone's going to get
It's still
answered.
hard.
Someone's going to run a call. Someone's going to sell something. Someone's going to collect the money and install it and all that stuff. It's all going to happen, you
Yeah,
know? Now, you're not going to strategically like buy new trucks or do new marketing or something during that 3 days, but at least you didn't lose the whole darn thing and have no money coming in and no profit and no customers served and all that stuff.
yeah.
So, and you fixed
Um,
that really quickly. We got you out of that mode.
yeah. No, a lot of things changes, like getting a on-call service and things like that, and just learning how to tie. But I think the biggest thing is, like, you know, like you were kind of saying earlier, everybody knows what they have to do, but it gets very, very daunting when you have all these puzzle pieces and you have no idea how to tie everything together. So
Right.
you know, it's a lot more simple to go to somebody who's already tied all those things together before to say, oh yeah, man, well, that thing that you would have spent 6 hours trying to figure out, I'll tell you in like 30 seconds, you know?
Right, right. Right.
So I
And
think
don't
that,
do that. That thing you're spending all this time on, that is not going to change your life right now. Go
yeah,
do this other thing. Right.
yeah. I think, and it's like how much is your time worth? Like how much money, and this is kind of like something I use for a lot of things, whether it be a program like yours or going and taking my truck to get fixed at the mechanic. I'm like, well, dude, I can be out charging this labor rate of $200 an hour. So why would I spend 4 hours fixing my vehicle when I can take it to the mechanic and he can fix it in two and he charges $75 an hour, however you want to pay.
Right.
Why would I spend 6 hours trying to even think of all the things I want to put on an invoice when, I mean, what's that? $1,200 that I
Right.
just wait.
Well, here's an even better example that I always use for myself, right? There's things I don't like doing, like cutting my lawn. Some people like cutting their lawn. I hate it. I can't stand doing it, right? And it's like, well, time to cut my lawn. It's like, why would I do that? I'll just pay the neighbor kid like $20 or whatever he charges, $30 or whatever, because for the hour he's doing that, I charge way more than that to go to work.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
And not only
exactly.
that, because if I'm not going to go to work, if it's the weekend and it would be Saturday and it's my day to cut the lawn, well, I'd rather go spend it with my kids or something. That's more valuable to me than the $20 too. It's like, I don't care. So
Yeah.
you got to start getting rid of the jobs that you don't even want to do anyway, that are like, you're trying to save $20 and you're wasting 200. You could run a call for that much, right?
Yep. And one big thing I'd like to touch on that is anybody watching the video who does all your own accounting and doesn't have an accountant, find a good accountant, because that's like the biggest thing that I was wasting time on, was doing all of my own accounting, plugging everything in myself. And you should know how to do it and should know your numbers and stuff. But man, finding a good accountant is like
Well, it's the whole
right.
office admin process, right? It's the same thing. It's like, office admin people don't get paid as much as you can make in an hour running calls or whatever else you're managing your business. If you're out selling an air conditioner for thousands of dollars and you spend a couple hours to do it, you're making a couple $1,000s an hour, right?
Yeah.
And they're making, 15, 20, $25 an hour, whatever the heck you're paying your office person. It's like, stop doing $20 an hour work because you should be doing $1,000 an hour work. So
Yeah, exactly.
and just pay them. And it's like, get off your little attitude of like, well, I don't want to spend the money on that. It's like, do it. And you're going to find out how fast your business explodes really fast.
Yeah. It's really funny because it's like the whole, you have to spend money to make money mentality. And it's really funny because I grew up with my dad always telling me that, because my dad's been self-employed since I was a little kid. I mean, he was a cable contractor for a long time. But so I've been crawling under mobile homes and through that since about the time I could walk. But he was always saying you got to spend money to make money. And it's funny because it really stuck with me. But he like totally doesn't practice what he preaches, So, but and it's like he has this concept he doesn't want to pay for anything. And I think a lot of self-employed people, a lot of contractors have that idea of, well, if I don't spend the money on this, it means I make more money. And it's absolutely not true.
Well, there's a line there, right? I mean, obviously there's you don't just go spending money, but what it is,
but
your business is a mirror. It's when you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, the way that it's working. Yep. And then we start trying to draw on the mirror with a marker to change it instead of changing what we're doing. Like for example, if you're thinking, oh, the customers are cheapskates. Well, is it because you're a cheapskate? I mean, take a look. I mean, maybe you are, maybe you're not, but it's one of those things you want to look at. So, so anyway, we've been going for a little bit here. So, so in the interest of time, why don't we kind of wrap up a little bit? Because thanks for hanging out. It was great to talk with you and have everybody see your experience. But what would you say is the biggest piece of advice or that you would give anybody that is, in that place where you were?
Don't be afraid to ask for help, because, just in a general consensus of how even like things get better is if you don't ask for help, you're just relearning all the things that somebody else already learned. If like humankind in general did that, we would still be using square wheels. We wouldn't have a round wheel. Everybody'd still be like, figure out how to make a wheel. It's like, just go ask the guy who like made the wheel how he did it, you know?
Right, right.
Or ask the guy who learned how to start a fire how he started the fire. Stop trying to figure out other ways to start it, you know?
Well, this whole process starts with finally getting, you can watch the videos for a year like you did, but you finally have to pick up the phone, get on the call. Let's have a chat and figure out what's going on for your business, right? That's the key.
Yeah.
So like you said, ask for help. So that's what I do is we do those calls. They're free. And not everybody I talk to is a good fit, but that's cool. That's okay. So when we get on the call, and what we're going to do is we're go through, where's your challenge? What's going on for you? Let's build you a plan to go from where you're at to where you want to go. And is that plan one that you can live with? And we'll do this all like in an hour. It's like, here's your plan. You're here. You want to go here. And if you want help with that, then we'll talk about help. But basically, here's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah. Yep. And, just be ready to put in the work if you really want it. Just be
I got to point out, this is not a magic bullet. You did work really hard to get this stuff done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I work very hard every single day to get there, but it's almost like you're not necessarily working harder. You're just redirecting the way that you work.
Right.
So it's like you still have to work hard just like you do every day. Right now is a one-man show, and you're out there slaving on service calls and stuff. It's like it is a lot of hard work to get to do the things that you teach us to do. But at the end of the day, you're not necessarily working harder. You're just working on different things instead of doing the things that you're doing now.
Yeah. Instead of one more service call, take that couple hours and build your price book, or get your sales process improved, or something, right? Or
so it's not
marketing or something.
Yeah, so it's not like, oh man, well this guy Ted, he's saying it's so easy to just build this or do whatever, blah 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 blah. It's like I think a lot of people are skeptical about that, as they are with a lot of things. But it's like you got to put in the work. It's like you said, it's not a magic bullet, and it is a lot of hard work.
Well, we can make it simple, but I can't make it easy.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're not going to have the Staples easy button right there that you just hit it magically.
No, but I mean, it can be simple. It doesn't have to be like, here's my 4,000 step program. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, it's a pretty simple program. And a lot of it is, even though that there is a pace to it, there is still quite a bit of work at your own pace kind of mentality to it as well too. So I think that's very convenient for people who are contractors and they have things that they have to do, there are time slots that we have to meet and do things, but you do have a lot of choice in when you do a lot of the parts of the program.
Cool. So if you want to book a call and you want to have a conversation like Zach and I had, what you need to do is just go to tedgravelin.com and /booking you need a slash on the end. I don't know why. You need a / on the other end too. tedgravelin.com /booking. Or just on the homepage, tedgravelin.com. You can find it from there too. There's a button for, book a call, and go ahead and set it up. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find me on there. That's also on the website. And other things like that. The YouTube channel videos are free. Those are the ones that Zach was watching for a while.
Yep.
If you're really ambitious, you could probably watch them all in a couple of days because they're not real long. They're like 10 minutes a piece or 5 minutes a piece, most of them. There's a couple like this one that are a little bit longer, but but you can watch all those really quickly and get a lot of information. But ultimately, information is not what most companies need. They need transformation. You need to take the information and do something with it to transform your business into what it's supposed to be. That's the real key, is the transforming part. And that's where the coaching part comes in along with the information. So I look at the information. It's like if you had a kitchen with all the ingredients to make all kinds of food in there, that's the ingredients, but that's not food. That's not cooked, right? So, so that's what it is. So thanks, Zach, for hanging out. And, everybody else is welcome to, book a call, and, we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks. See you, man.
Thanks, guys.